Questions without notice. Senator Minchin.
Thanks very much, Mr President. My question is to the Minister for Broadband, Communications and the Digital Economy. Given the minister's statement as recently as May and the previous statements of the Finance Minister Lindsay Tanner that Labor does not advocate a structural separation of Telstra and that it has never previously been Labor policy, why has the government now decided that it intends to force the breakup of Telstra?
The Minister for Broadband, Communications and the Digital Economy, Senator Conroy.
Thank you, Mr President. And could I thank Senator Minchin for his question, and could I also thank him for his 150th press release since he became Shadow Minister, and not one policy in the 150.
Senator Conroy,
it is an auspicious day today.
The issue.
An auspicious day today. 150 press releases and not one single policy. But, Mr President, the historic reforms the government will introduce today will fundamentally reform existing telecommunications regulations in the interests of Australian consumers and businesses. They will drive future growth, productivity and innovation across all sectors of the economy. For years, telecommunications companies, industry experts and the regulator have been calling for fundamental reforms in telecommunications. In the past, these tough decisions have been avoided by governments of both persuasions. Regulatory reform is critical for the future of communications in Australia. It should have been done in the past, a fact acknowledged by the former Minister, Senator Coonan, who on the 13th of May 2008 conceded that more thought could have gone into a policy that would have separated the network. More thought could have gone into a policy that would have separated the network. Senator Helen Coonan just last year. Today, we are delivering historic reforms in Australia's long-term national interest that will address Telstra's high level of integration to promote greater competition and consumer benefits, streamline and simplify the competition regime to provide more certain and quicker outcomes for telecommunications companies, strengthen consumer
Senator Conroy,
safeguards.
your time's expired. Time's expired. Senator Minchin.
Thanks, Mr President. I asked the minister why does the government consider it necessary to force the breakup of Telstra when it itself has declared that its $43 billion national broadband network proposal is supposed to, and I quote, fundamentally transform the competitive dynamics of the Australian telecommunications sector?
The Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. The premise of that question fails on two fronts. The first is we are not forcing Telstra to structurally separate. We are putting forward a series of reforms,
Order.
and Telstra have a choice. They have a choice about the path they want to take. A path to sit on their existing assets, the decrepit, dying old copper network, or to move into the future, the new mobile spectrum with the new applications and technologies that will bring. So Telstra have the choice on how they want to proceed. They have the choice, Mr President. About
just resume your seat. Order. Order. When there is silence, we will proceed. Senator Conroy.
Thank you. So the entire premise of the question is based on a false assertion, Mr President. Telstra have a choice, and Telstra are currently engaged in constructive, sensible discussions with the government,
Your
about
time's
the future.
expired, Senator Conroy. Order. Order. Senator Minchin.
Thanks, Mr President. Additionally, I asked the
Wait a
minister—
minute, Senator Minchin. There's noise on both sides. I can't hear your question when there's noise on both sides. Senator Minchin.
Thanks, Mr President. I asked the minister, has the government taken into account the security and position of Telstra's 30,000 employees, 1.4 million shareholders, who have today lost $2 billion as a result of the government's announcement, and Telstra's 9 million customers in reaching its decision to force the breakup of Telstra?
The Minister.
Thank you, Mr President. I'm genuinely pleased that the Shadow Minister wants to talk about share value of Telstra, because the share value of Telstra on the day that the former minister, now Shadow Minister, appointed Mr Sol Trujillo to manage Telstra was $5.30. $5.30. $30 billion worth of lost value at varying points due to the management and leadership of those opposite. The management and leadership.
Order.
The share price when Mr Trujillo left the country was $3.30. $2
Senator
per
Conroy,
share.
just resume your seat. Resume your seat. Resume your seat on both sides. When we've got silence, we'll proceed. Order. Senator Conroy.
$5.30, Mr President, to $3.30 under the regime promoted, supported and welcomed. When Mr Trujillo left the country, he was the one person in the country who said he'd done a fantastic job and we'll miss him, Senator Nick Minchin. Senator Nick Minchin. I didn't hear that
Order.
from Senator Clinton.
Your time's expired, Senator Conroy. Time's expired.